Texas pastor's shocking 3 a.m. online love twist. What he found will haunt you forever. As the clock struck 3 in the morning, the Texas town lay cloaked in a haunting silence, the kind that sends shivers racing down your spine. In a dimly lit room, Pastor David leaned closer to his flickering screen, heart pounding. He was searching for a connection, a spark to cut through his restless solitude. Little did he know, this late-night browsing would uncover a chilling twist that would forever alter the fabric of his reality. Hours earlier, his congregation had filled the pews with lively voices, clapping hands, and cheerful laughter. But now, as the moon cast eerie shadows through the window, something felt off. David's gut twisted in a way that had nothing to do with the dozen donuts he devoured after the service. He stumbled across a profile, a woman named Lilith, her smile radiant yet oddly unsettling, eyes glinting like sharp glass. The moment he clicked her picture, a chill enveloped the room, as if a dark presence filled the air. Who was she? The computer screen dimmed, almost as if it were warning him. With each keystroke, David felt a tightening in his chest. Lilith's messages poured in, each one more cryptic than the last. I see you, David. I know what lies beneath. The words sent a shudder down his spine. It felt like she had ripped open a hidden door to his soul. Why was she watching him? What did she truly know? His mind raced with questions as the tension began to grow heavier, wrapping around him like a suffocating vine. But there was something more. Delving deeper, he discovered a page filled with twisted tales of other souls who crossed paths with Lilith. Accounts of broken hearts, shattered lives, each story more bizarre than the last. A tight knot formed in his throat. Could this beautiful enigma be the monster they wrote of? Or was she just a figment of his overactive imagination? He needed answers, and he needed them fast. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. David's heart raced once more. Were those distant whispers outside his window? The wind howled, carrying faint echoes that blended with the noise of his pounding pulse. He glanced sideways, sensing a shadow flicker just behind the curtains. Panic surged. As the revelation of Lilith's true self swirled in his mind, something unseen grasped at his consciousness, squeezing tighter until he could barely breathe. He leaned forward, desperate for clarity. What was the hidden truth that ensnared him in this chilling net? Maybe he was already too deep, ensnared in a web woven by a witch's charm. But just as the clues began to line up, his phone lit up with a message. David, you can't escape. His fingers trembled over the keyboard. What should he do next? His fingers hovered over the keyboard, an electric buzz coursing through his veins. David, you can't escape. The words echoed in his head like a taunting chant. Sweat beaded on his brow as he shot a glance toward the darkened window. Had she really been watching him, lurking just outside? With shaky hands, he typed back, "Who are you?" A pitiful question, but he had to know more. The screen flickered, and the response came almost instantly, as if it had been waiting for him to ask. "I am what lies in your shadows, your greatest fear." As the room chilled, David felt that suffocating grip tighten around his chest again. The air felt viscous, the shadows from the window creeping closer like whispering ghosts. Was she a spirit? Or something worse? Desperation clawed at him, and he reached for his phone, dialing his friend Mark, the church's tech guru. He needed support. He needed someone who could help him break this sinister connection. The phone rang twice, then went to voicemail. "Mark, pick up. I need you. Call me back." His heart raced as he glanced at the screen once more, anxiety bubbling up. Thoughts whirled. Was it truly possible that a single online encounter could lead him to this torturous brink? Instinctively, he pulled himself back, shaking his head as if to dispel shadows that were now effortlessly invading his thoughts. Suddenly, another message pinged. "I know your secrets, David. I've watched your every sermon, heard your every prayer. You've prayed for guidance, but you never wanted the truth." His stomach churned. Each word from her chilled him to the bone. Did she know about the doubts swirling in his mind, the cracks forming in his unshakable faith? He had kept these thoughts hidden. His inner struggles were never meant to be seen, especially not by a stranger. But Lilith seemed to know everything. Stop it. He typed furiously. What do you want from me? A pause. His heart hammered. Thoughts raced. Could this be a sick prank? A twisted game? Or was it something darker lurking behind the shimmering veil of her words? The response appeared, the fingertips of dread running up his spine once more. I want you to see who you really are, and who I am. Join me, David. Let us bring your fears into the light. It was an invitation, insidious and tempting. David shuddered, searching through the stories he'd read earlier. Were there signs he had missed? All those victims, did they succumb to her lure? As the thought of that beautiful but haunting smile flashed in his mind, a resolute voice cried out from deep within him, warning him to stay away. But curiosity nibbled at the edges of his consciousness. The room dimmed further, and he could swear he felt her presence creeping into his space, that unsettling energy wrapping him in a cold embrace. What if the darkness she promised held the answers he desperately sought? He took a deep breath, heart pounding, as he composed one last message. What do I need to do? Before he could press send, the lights flickered in the room. The moment lingered, thick with tension, as an icy breeze swept through, sending a wave of chills. It was time to face whatever darkness awaited him. And then it came, another ping from his phone that left him breathless. Meet me where the forgotten gather. Midnight. The truth will be revealed. The air hung heavy as panic mixed with an unyielding urge for confrontation. The clock ticked ominously, counting down to something unimaginable. What awaited him was a question teetering on the precipice of dread. Would he dare step into her world? Or would he become yet another story shadowed by her darkness? Questions swirled around him like dark fog, and David couldn't shake the frightening feeling that, regardless of his choice, he was already in too deep. With a desperate resolve forming, he whispered to himself, I have to know. He just hoped it wouldn't be the last thing he ever said. The clock read 11:57 p.m., and David's heart felt like it was pounding outside his chest. Each tick was a reminder of the impending confrontation. He sat frozen in his dim, cluttered room, darkness stretching like spider webs across the walls. The screen on his laptop glowed back at him, a haunting message still echoing in his mind. Where the forgotten gather. It felt like an incantation, a summons to a place buried in his deepest fears. Was this merely an empty threat, or did she intend to reveal something he wasn't prepared to face? Outside, shadows twisted in the flickering streetlights, casting eerie shapes that seemed to scrape against the edges of his window. They whispered, urging him to turn and flee, but he remained rooted in his chair, unable to resist the pull of the unknown. A sudden buzzing from his phone pulled him from his thoughts. It was a message from Mark. Just got your voicemail. What's wrong? Relief surged through him, but a quick glance at the clock silenced his excitement. Forget it, Mark. I'll tell you everything later. He typed hastily, then shoved the phone aside. Focus, David. You need to know. With a deep breath, he rose from his seat, every muscle protesting against the decision, as though trying to prevent him from stepping into the darkness outside. He hesitated for just a moment, glancing down at his reflection in the screen. It was a face of fear and resolve, a face that might be stepping into the stories he preached against. Grabbing his jacket, he breathed, it's just a meeting. But he knew it was more than that, an intersection between his world and whatever virtual hell Lilith might conjure up. The chill of the night air hit him like a wave as he stepped outside. A light breeze whipped against him, carrying the scent of damp earth, a reminder of secrets buried underneath. Each step felt heavy. Caution enveloped his mind like a thick fog. The meeting place echoed with an unsettling silence, the type that makes your skin crawl. A decrepit park, overgrown with weeds and haunted by the whispers of forlorn memories. The edges of the playground creaked underfoot, and the rusting swing set swayed as if moved by something unseen. At the center of the park, broken benches faced each other like forgotten friends. David's pulse quickened as something brushed against his senses, a pull, an energy charging the air around him. Suddenly, she appeared, stepping from the shadows with an elegance that sent shivers down his spine. Lilith, the same haunting smile, the same predatory glint in her eyes. The pale moonlight bathed her in a ghostly glow, making her look almost otherworldly. "Welcome, David," she purred, her voice a silky thread slipping through the oppressive silence. "You came. What do you want from me?" He wished his voice conveyed confidence, but it trembled slightly. An undercurrent of fear betrayed him. "To show you the truth," she replied, her gaze penetrating deeply into his soul as she stepped closer. "All you must do is listen. Let your fears come to the surface." An unsettling excitement coiled in his stomach. "And then what? What happens when my fears surface?" The dim light caught the sharpness in her eyes, and he felt something inside him clench tightly. Lilith laughed, a sound that danced between seductive and sinister. "You'll finally be free, David. Free to choose who you really are." The words hung in the air. He clutched at his chest, taken by a sudden wave of doubt. What did that mean? A cacophony of memories flashed through his mind. Lost souls, broken faith, fleeting moments of doubt. Each one like a ghost, waiting to be exorcised. But at what cost? "Trust me," she urged, her voice weaving through him like smoke. Let them come. He could feel the weight of the choice he had to make, the ground beneath him shifting as he stood on the verge. To face what lay in the shadows, or to turn back. The burdens of his past trembled on his lips, threatening to spill into a dizzying abyss. "What if I can't handle it?" The confession slipped out, raw and naked. "Then you will never know," she stated simply, her smile both inviting and cursed. Questions swirled around him, spinning faster and faster. The unrelenting pull of darkness whispered in his ear, beckoning him to take the final step toward his fate. In that moment, David realized this was it. The climax of his internal battle had begun. He stood on the precipice between fear and truth, and when his next word fell, it would change everything. "Okay," he breathed, almost to himself. "Show me." The shadows danced eagerly toward the moonlight, drawing him closer to the abyss. What would he face? And would he emerge whole or shattered? As reality twirled within the fabric of his thoughts, the air grew thicker, electric. A prelude to a revelation awaited, one that could rend him apart. "Are you ready for the truth?" Lilith asked, the invitation laced with chilling gravity. And before he could answer, something shifted in the dark, a sudden flicker of movement, and sound a new presence, one that sent chills racing down his spine. As fear surged through him like wildfire, the night blossomed with anticipation. Who else was watching? And why did he feel like the noose of darkness was tightening around his neck? The answers, like a cloud of smoke, were swirling just out of reach, waiting to choke him on their secrets. Would he learn who he truly was or lose everything in the process? David barely had time to register the shift in the shadows when a figure clumsily emerged from the darkness. The newcomer stumbled into the moonlight, a disheveled man clad in tattered clothes that seemed like they had stories of their own to tell. His hair was a wild nest, eyes wide with the kind of fear that teeters between desperation and madness. "Get away from her," he shouted, pointing at Lilith, his voice cracking with an unsettling mixture of fear and anger. Every muscle in David's body tensed, instincts screaming at him to run. But his feet liked the ground far too much, rooted in place, compelled by curiosity and dread. "Calm down," Lilith said smoothly, her voice a silken thread cutting through the urgency. "You don't understand." The intruder's breath came in quick gasps. "I know exactly what she is. You don't want to be here, man. Trust me." As panic clawed its way through David's veins, he weighed the stranger's words. Who was this man? And what truth did he think he knew? "Let him speak," David said finally, surprising even himself. He wasn't ready to let Lilith go, not when the abyss was so near. The tension in the air crackled like electricity, igniting something deep within him. Lilith's expression darkened slightly, but she nodded, arms crossing over her chest, as if preparing for a battle of wills. The man stepped forward, eyes darting between David and Lilith. "You shouldn't trust her. She feeds on your fears, drawing them out like blood from a wound. She isn't here to help you." "I'm here to free him," Lilith interjected, her voice laced with an edge of menace. "Just as I freed you." The man flinched at her words, eyes flickering with memories that were not his own. I thought I was going to be set free, but I was wrong. She will show you horrors your past, your regrets. You won't be the same afterward." Blood thundered in David's ears as the implications sank in. His past was a landscape of shadows. He had buried things so deep. Was this a rescue? Or a horror show? What kind of freedom comes at the cost of losing yourself? This time, the tremor in David's voice was laced with defiance. Lilith smiled, a haunting expression that sent shivers creeping along his spine. The truth is never easy, David, but it is often necessary. Embrace it, and you may find the strength you never knew you had. But before he could respond, the stranger leaped forward, gripping David's shoulders with a force born from terror. Listen to me. Whatever you do, don't let her in. She will show you what you fear most, and once you look into that abyss, it may just stare back. David's heart raced. Suddenly, the gravity of his decision felt like shackles wrapped around his wrists. He was on the edge of a cliff, suspended between freedom and despair. The park, once eerily silent, began to whistle with an ominous wind, tugging at the edges of reality. It's just a trick, the beggar spat, suddenly agitated, eyes wild. A game. You won't come back the same. I thought I could do it, too, but it took everything. This man, had he ventured into the same darkness? The fear etched into his features tugged at David's heart. Or maybe it's the bravest thing you could ever do, Lilith interjected, her voice honeyed with temptation. Face who you truly are, David. Caught in a tug of war between fear and curiosity, he felt layers of the night wrapping tighter around him, silencing, suffocating. But this was more than about him. Was Lilith playing with him, like a spider with a trapped fly? What if I want to leave? David's voice was shaky, pleading. But as soon as the words tripped off his tongue, he knew it was too late. The air thickened, suffocating him with expectation. Lilith took a step closer, and her eyes glinted with something unexplainable, something darker. You can't leave, David, not until you confront what's inside. As if summoned by a hidden force, shadows stirred around him, riling like a tempest. They reached, grasping, pulling him toward Lilith. He gasped and stumbled back, his heart racing as old fears clawed their way to the surface. The beggar seemed to sense the urgency escalating. You don't have to do this. You don't owe her anything. David was at war with himself. Should he flee, or step into the churning depths waiting for him? He realized he was no longer just a passive player. Whatever came next would force him to choose who he wanted to be, not just for himself, but for all whose paths he had crossed. Let us see if you're strong enough to withstand what you're about to face, Lilith whispered, drifting toward him like smoke, her promise filled with both allure and dread. As the shadows closed in, he felt the trembling bridge beneath him snap, plunging him into an abyss darker than his fears. Was this the moment he truly wanted? What awaited him now felt like a shattering of the soul itself. And as the darkness swallowed him whole, a thought flickered in his mind. Had he finally unwittingly signed up for a nightmare from which he might never wake? What lay in wait to greet him on the other side? The terrifying questions spiraled around him. What if the truth he faced was worse than he could have ever imagined? David plunged into an inky void, a chilling silence enveloping him as thoughts spiraled into chaos. He wanted to scream, to shout for help, but the sound was swallowed up by blackness. Every instinct screamed for him to turn back, yet the pull of Lilith's promise was too strong, a magnetic force drawing him deeper into his own personal hell. The darkness engulfed him. Pinpricks of light began to flicker in the distance, shimmering like stars in an alien sky. Each glimmer seemed to pulse with energy, memories coalescing from the shadows. He felt them slipping through his fingers, fragments of life he couldn't afford to lose. Friends laughing, a child's cry, a lover's whisper. The light offered warmth and comfort, but shadows loomed behind, churning like waves of despair. He stumbled forward, drawn to the lights, but the air grew thick, heavy with dread. With each step, whispers filled his ears, indistinct phrases that pricked at his mind like needles. They rose and fell, weaving an eerie tapestry of his fears, regrets, and broken promises. A bitter chill snaked around David's spine. The memories turned sour. Past mistakes rolled like thunder in his heart. Times he chose safety over love, decisions that haunted him like ghosts on a rainy night. The darkness laughed, taunting him for his cowardice, as flashes of regret danced mockingly before his eyes. David. A voice echoed, smooth and sultry like honey dripped in darkness. Why did you let them go? It was Lilith. her tone dripping with deceitful sweetness. Don't you wish you could have done it differently? He clutched his head, fighting to shake free of her influence. Stop it, he shouted, the sound ricocheting off the walls of his mind. Leave me alone. Leave, she purred, materializing from the shadows with a gleeful expression. You can't leave. You've stepped into your own stories. I'm merely the narrator. Each moment a choice, a regret. It's time to face them. The surroundings shifted, and the lights morphed into scenes from his life: his father's disappointed gaze, a fiery argument with his best friend, the moment he lost his mother. Each scene felt like a dagger to the heart, stabbing deeper with each replay. Sweat rolled down David's brow as he struggled to breathe under the weight of his past. Face it, Lilith continued, closing the distance, her voice a low murmur that curled around him like smoke. You can rewrite these tales. You could change everything. If you just let me in. Let you in? The words tasted bitter on his tongue. What's the price? Only your fears, she replied, her smile widening, teeth glinting like knives. Every fear until there's nothing left but the truth. Behind her, the shadows buzzed, a rising tide of darkness, ancient and full of malice. David recoiled, pulse pounding. Truth? Or another trap woven from deception? In that moment, a flicker of hope sparked within him. Maybe he didn't have to let her take everything. Maybe confronting his fears meant not just surrendering, but fighting. Gritting his teeth, he bore down on the darkness, his heart thundering. If I'm going to face my fears, I'll do it on my own terms. The shadows froze, and for an instant, silence reigned. Lilith leaned closer, surprise crossing her features, and in that blink, the atmosphere shifted. Very well, she hissed, eyes narrowing dangerously. But know this, David, your journey has just begun. There will be consequences to your defiance. With a sudden rush, the scenes around him warped violently, twisting and contorting. David felt the ground beneath him quake, the walls of his own mind shattering like glass, scattering all around him. As he stood on the brink of this alien landscape, heart racing, he caught one last glimpse of Lilith's mesmerizing gaze before it faded into the tempest. What had he unleashed? Was he truly ready for the storm that awaited him? In the maelstrom of chaos, one unsettling thought echoed loudly. How much of himself would he have to lose to discover who he truly was? And with the last remnants of calm swept away, David braced himself for whatever nightmare awaited him next. Would he emerge stronger or be consumed by the very shadows he dared to confront? The darkness whispered back, a chilling promise, a truth waiting to be revealed. David felt the world unravel around him, engulfed in swirling memories that intertwined like smoke. A cacophony of laughter and tears echoed through the darkness, with each sound striking his heart like a hammer. The weight of regret bore down on him, compressing his chest until he could scarcely breathe. This was not just a fight against the shadows. It was a battle against himself. Flashes of his life streamed past. He stood in a dimly lit room, his younger self arguing with his best friend, voices raised. You're making a mistake, David. The anguish in his friend's voice felt like a knife twisting inside him. Then, it shifted again. He was in a park, watching a child play with their mother, laughter dancing on the wind. He was the child once, filled with innocence and joy. But that joy had fractured. Glimmers of Lilith's smile appeared amidst the chaos, teasing him with promises. Do you see it now? The chains of your choices? You yearn for freedom, yet here you are, shackled by your fears. If I'm shackled, it's by my own choice. He yelled into the void, standing tall against the waves of darkness. A surge of defiance coursed through him, igniting something deep within, casting a temporary light on the shadows. I can't let you dictate my fate. The shadows recoiled, momentarily illuminating their shapes, figures of his family, his lost friends, each one an echo of his past. They stood with sadness etched onto their faces, silently pleading for him to remember, to feel the weight of what he had given up. But the moment of clarity crumbled as a new darkness swept in, heavy like fog rolling through a graveyard. Very brave, David. Lilith's voice slithered back into the forefront, smooth and intoxicating. But bravery without clarity is merely a fool's gamble. No. He clenched his fists, blood pounding in his temples. You can't win. I will face my fears, even if it means confronting you. The world around him trembled. The ground cracked, and behind him, the figures began to dissolve, revealing their true forms. They were not his family or friends, but twisted versions of his regrets, each monster reeking of disappointment and pain. The realization hit him hard. They were the fears he had buried deep, refusing to confront. David took a step back, heart racing, overwhelmed by the grotesque manifestations of his failures. "Stay away. You're not real." His voice shook, but he didn't falter. Each monster lurked closer, whispering secrets meant to cut him down. "You'll always be alone, you'll never find them, you're broken." He felt the urgency rise in him, that deep-rooted need to reclaim what the shadows had taken. "You're wrong," he shouted, summoning a roar from deep within. "I can't change the past, but I can change how I face it. I'm not afraid of you." With every word, David pushed forward, feeling a surge of warmth unraveling from his core. It swirled like a tempest around him, pushing back the shadows, forcing them to wail as they clawed for his retreat. For a fleeting moment, the howling stopped. Silence wrapped around him like a blanket, and he opened his eyes to a breath of fresh air. He stood alone, in a clearing surrounded by the remnants of chaos, breathing deeply. But was it truly over? Before he could gather his thoughts, the ground began to rumble once more, but this time it felt different. The tremors grew stronger, more violent, as if the world around him was reeling from his defiance. In the distance, a figure trudged toward him through the mist, a shadow within shadows. "Let us see if you can truly face your fears, David," Lilith's voice echoed from somewhere, a dark melody that sent chills racing down his spine. "Or will you fall again, just like always?" Heart pounding, he prepared himself for the confrontation, knowing that whatever this was, it would shatter everything he thought he knew. What awaited him on the other side of that mist? Would he find victory or plunge deeper into despair? The mist swirled and twisted, wrapping around the figure approaching him. Dark and indistinct at first, it began to take shape, a woman clad in shadows, her eyes glinting dangerously like the sharp end of a knife. As the figure stepped into the dim light, David's breath caught in his throat. It was Lilith, only now she appeared more terrifying than he remembered, her beauty entangled with malice. "Do you know why you're here, David?" she asked, her voice dripping with sweetness yet laced with misty menace. "You're standing on the edge of a precipice, and the choice is yours. Plunge into the abyss of your fears or soar above them." He forced himself to remain steady, fists clenched at his sides. "You won't manipulate me any longer. I'm done running." "Running? Oh dear, this is not running." A smile spread across her lips, revealing teeth sharp and glistening. "This is merely the beginning. The real challenge lies ahead." Lilith raised her hand, creating a portal of swirling colors and echoing voices behind her. It felt alive, drawing him in with tendrils of emotion he thought long buried. David felt a familiar tug in his chest, memories begging to be acknowledged. "What is this?" he breathed, a mixture of dread and curiosity flooding his mind. "Those are your choices, your regrets, your missed chances." Her tone revealed her as anything but benevolent. "They seek a vessel, David. They want to replay their stories." She stepped closer, blackness trailing in her wake, and he could feel the heat of her presence. "You think you're here to conquer them?" she taunted, glancing back at the shimmering chaos behind her. "You're in for a real awakening." David's pulse raced. He couldn't afford to let fear lead him. "I own those parts of me. I can't change them, but I can face them. I won't let you twist them into hooks to pull me down." That's very courageous. But courage does not equal success. Lilith made a flicking motion with her fingers as if she were casting a spell. Suddenly, the voices grew louder, overlapping in a cacophony of despair. Faces swam in the mist, lost friends, family, the people he failed. They reached out, crying for help, memories of pain igniting like fireflies in the dark. "See them?" Lilith leaned closer, whispering urgently. Her breath chilled his skin. "They're not just shadows. They're your fate, reminders of every step you're scared to take. Confront them or lose your way again. Are you ready?" The ground shook violently beneath him, the friction pulling him closer to the chaotic memories. Each face held a unique sorrow, an essence of moments he couldn't change, but which he could not flee from any longer. David's heart thudded. There was no backing down now. "I'll embrace them," he shouted, his voice steady despite the quaking ground. "I'll grapple with the truth, no matter how dark." Lilith laughed, resonating through the shadows. "Very well, then. Let us peel back those layers and see what lies beneath. Show me your bravery." With that scream, the air shifted, and reality began to distort further. The shadows amplified, morphing into swirling monstrosities of regret and terror. David felt the weight of their eyes, the pressure increasing with every heartbeat. He could either stand tall or be crushed under the enormity of his past. Taking a deep breath, David stood grounded, ready to face the tidal wave of memories, knowing he was one step away from liberation or absolute destruction. What truth would he uncover in the depths of his darkest regrets? Would he emerge transformed, or would he succumb to the very fears he believed he could conquer? David braced himself against the dark wave of memories rushing toward him. The shadows coalesced, becoming familiar faces, friends he had betrayed, family he had disappointed. Their mouths opened in silent screams, pleading for acknowledgement. It felt like a haunting parade, and he was their unwilling audience. "Look closer, David," Lilith urged, her voice dripping with mockery. "This is your life, playing out before you. Do their stories matter, or are they just ghosts to you?" As he gazed deeper, a shimmer caught his eye. It was the face of his brother, Alex. Days long gone flashed before him, a younger version of himself, laughing, running, carefree. That memory twisted rapidly, the joy sullied by a moment of betrayal that David could never shake off. Their last argument echoed in his ears, the words spoken in anger like daggers thrown carelessly, words that all led to an irreversible fallout. "Feel it. Relive it," Lilith hissed. "You can still change the outcome, or will that lead to more pain?" "No," he cried, shaking his head as if he could erase the memory. But the weight of regret crashed over him, heavy and relentless, squeezing his chest tight. Each face brought its own burden, each memory a new lash of shame. Suddenly, the ground rumbled violently again. David felt something crack within him, a fissure that ran deep through his resolve. Was he truly ready to face it all? Could he bear the truth of his failures? Lilith stepped towards him, her dark form pulsating like a living shadow. "You think you can just confront them? Face your baggage?" "No, dear David. You need to strip the layers of your identity away." Her voice slithered, weaving around him like a noose. "Embrace what you've buried within you." "Never. I won't let you define me," David roared, but the memories swirled, pressing him down, their whispers growing louder, forming a tempest of doubt and fear. Images of his life unraveled before him: an ex-girlfriend's tear-streaked face, a mentor's disappointed scowl, the silence from friends he'd let down, each replayed, echoing his greatest failures and greatest fears. "Face them," Lilith urged, laughter reverberating through the swirling shadows. "Or be consumed by them. Choose wisely." David could feel the stress points of his heart, each beat like a ticking clock, reminding him of all he had lost. But in that despair, there flickered a tiny flame of defiance. The memories couldn't just be a reflection of his failings, could they? They were part of him, waiting to be confronted. The cacophony subdued, and David steadied himself, looking at each face with renewed determination. "No, I will not run away. I will own every piece of this and find a way to forgive myself." As the shadows writhed, a light broke through the chaos, slicing through the darkness around him. It illuminated the path forward, a path shrouded in uncertainty, but filled with the possibility of redemption. Lilith's expression shifted from amusement to something darker. "You think this light will save you? You still have to step into that darkness fully. You may just get lost in it." "Maybe," David said, his voice firm. "But I'd rather be lost trying than never try at all." He took a step forward into the swirling chaos, ready to claim his truth, the weight of his past pressing on him. Yet his heart surged with the resolve to confront it head-on. And just as he bridged the gap into the swirling void, a whisper slithered from the shadows, chilling him to the core. "You have yet to face the buried secret that binds you to this fate forever." What was this secret? Would exploring it lead him to salvation, or was it a trap laid by Lilith to ensnare him deeper into despair? David entered the void, the moment stretching like a taut string about to snap. The darkness closed in, thick and smothering. He felt the gnawing around his heart, fear twisting into an icy grip. The flickering light pushed back the shadows, but only just. Lilith's presence was palpable, her laughter echoing in the distance like the chime of broken glass. Run, run far away, David. Her voice was mocking yet seductive. You think you can handle that secret hidden so deep? You don't even know where to begin. In that certainty, doubt began to worm its way back into his mind. The light around him pulsed, casting contours of faces that were all too familiar. Family, friends, and echoes of love lost. They twisted into grimaces, blurring against the dark backdrop of his memories. Hold on, he murmured, grasping for anything to anchor him. He felt sweat bead on his brow as he fought against the rising tide of despair. What binds you to this fate? Lilith pressed, menacing and almost hungry. Is it guilt? Shame? Or something much, much worse? With trembling hands, David pushed away the anguish washing over him, even as it clawed at his insides. He remembered the moment of betrayal when whispers between friends led to a fracture he never meant to create. The darkness shifted, morphing into the face of a young girl, the only one who had believed him all those years ago. Her innocent eyes pierced through the shadows, and his heart clenched. Emma, he gasped, panic rising. Was she just another figment of his guilt, or did her presence mean something deeper? Do you long for her, David? Do you wish to bring her back from the past? Lilith cooed, swarming closer. The shadows began to churn again, morphing into the image of the world he once knew. He saw Emma laughing in a classroom, hair flying, light dancing around her like a halo. But there was always darkness lurking. The more he wished to reach out, the closer it slithered away. Could he bring back that version of her, that moment? Or was he doomed to relive their farewell over and over? Stop! David howled, struggling against the pull of the past. I want to be trapped. Not again. The determination surged and burned, igniting deeper than despair, fighting against the flood of memories he had tried to keep buried. But there it was again, a whisper, cutting sharper than a knife. You never truly said goodbye, did you? The truth lies in unfinished business. The ground beneath him cracked with thunderous intensity, shaking the very foundation of his memories, and for the first time, David felt the pull of fear coiling tightly around his throat. Face it, David. Lilith's voice crescendoed like a haunting melody. Your heart knows the truth. Will you find courage in your despair, or succumb to it? A dark wave surged forward, flooding his vision as the scene spiraled violently around him. He grabbed hold of the resilience festering in his chest. The secret that bound him, yes, it had to be unveiled. Whatever nightmare awaited, he would confront it head-on, even if it shattered him completely. Suddenly, as he steadied himself, the visions shifted abruptly, revealing a silhouette, a figure cloaked, standing at the edge of an unseen precipice, beckoning him forward with a slow, deliberate hand. Only you can take this step, David, the figure whispered, voice soft yet commanding. What are you? He asked, his voice wavering. But only silence answered, stretching on endlessly, a gaping maw waiting for him to fill it. His heart raced as he edged closer, faced with a choice that felt monumental. Would he step into the unknown and discover that buried truth? Or recoil back into the suffocating shadows forever? The chilling thought gripped him as he realized. The answer held the key to everything, the darker secret binding him tighter to his past and possibly his salvation. Was he ready to uncover what lay beyond that precipice? Or was fear enough to seal his fate once more? David felt the wind whip around him, carrying the scent of damp earth and memories. The figure stood still, beckoning him with an ethereal grace that sent shivers coursing through his veins. Each heartbeat echoed in his ears like a war drum, urging him forward. Who are you? He asked again, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. The silhouette had cast a shadow over its face, obscuring any identifying features. The air was thick with anticipation, and he could almost hear his heart pounding in synchrony with the low murmur of the darkness. Only you can reveal me, the figure replied, voice soft yet steeped in authority. It was a sound that resonated within David, awakening pieces of himself he thought lost forever. Step closer and acknowledge what has been hidden in the recesses of your soul. He wanted to take a step back, dread grabbing hold of him like a vice. But the urgency swelled inside him more than fear. It was a desperate hope. What must I do? He whispered, an earnest plea arising against the storm of uncertainty. Remember, the figure urged, its voice now echoing like a soft chime, familiar yet alien. Face the truths you've avoided, what you buried deep to shield yourself from pain. Own them. Only then can you truly begin to heal. A flash of memory surged through him, a flicker amongst the fearful shadows. Emma, always full of light, had believed in him. When he lost her, the weight of that abandonment had anchored him down, binding him in guilt and rage. Emma, he murmured, the name escaping his lips like a prayer. Speak her name, the figure coaxed. Let that recognition guide you, David. With each word, the darkness around him tightened, manifesting into familiar shadows, each whispering regret clawing at him from all angles. I failed her, he confessed, his voice breaking. I didn't protect her when she needed me. Now, reach into your heart and find your truth. The figure stepped back slightly, allowing space for David's reality to unfold. He felt the world shift, memories flooding in like an unstoppable tide. He saw himself standing at the threshold of their last encounter, words of hurt spilling out in anger. The reason he had said goodbye to Emma had been wrapped in misunderstandings, a web of his own making. I was selfish, I let fear dictate my choices, he said, tears welling up in his eyes. I should have fought for her. Face that truth, the figure whispered, and David felt everything spiral outward, memories reshaping themselves. The laughter echoed alongside the painful silence, and suddenly, the distorted figures of his past began to shift, taking on genuinely concerned forms that he stumbled forward, standing against the frosty air that swirled around him. I want to correct my mistakes. I want to free the fear that binds me. Do you now? Lilith's laughter sliced through the air, sharp and mocking. She emerged from the shadows, her eyes glittering with malicious glee. You truly think acknowledging your failures will liberate you? Yes. David's resolve flared as he met her gaze, no longer shaken. I refuse to let fear dictate my fate any longer. The truth will set me free. I faced the darkness, and now I'll embrace the light. The air crackled as the tension snapped. Lilith leered, taken aback for just a moment. How quaint. But what if I told you it could also chain you forever? David took a deep breath, feeling the enormous weight lift slightly. Perhaps it's true, recognizing my fears could expose even more pain. But I won't cower anymore. I'll embrace every shadow, and in doing so, reclaim every piece of myself. He stretched out his arms, pulling the energy of his earlier affirmations toward him. With the confidence that came from raw truth, he stepped closer to the precipice, feeling that the light growing within outweighed the darkness chasing him. Emma, I'm sorry I failed you, he cried, the words bursting forth like a mercy unbound. And to all the ones I let down, I am ready to confront the void I left behind. I embrace the truth because I finally understand my past does not define me. A great wind erupted, and color began to break through the shadows. The identities of his regrets swirled around him, merging into one radiant light, the answer he needed, woven with the strength of acceptance and change. David felt warmth wash over him, illuminating the darkness within. Look, the figure stepped closer, features emerging from the shadows. You have the potential to reconnect with lost hope and love. Embrace the choice ahead. A light, pure and golden, flickered above him. The shadows hissed, recoiling from the rising dawn. No, you'll shatter. Lilith screamed, her voice reverberating with dark vow. But I'll rebuild. David shouted back defiantly, walking toward the light, leaving the chains that once bound him severed on the ground. With a pulse of determination, he crossed over the threshold, and as he stepped away from despair, he felt the warmth encompass him completely. The darkness dissipated, figures of his past dissolving into the glowing embrace of unshed tears and laughter, and for the first time in forever, David felt the chains of his guilt fall away. He was free. As the dawn broke around him, he realized that the journey wasn't merely about his own liberation, but about the echoes of love he could reshape for everyone left behind. David felt hope bloom within, grasping a new sense of connection and purpose. And in the stirring light of the morning sun, he finally understood by facing and embracing the truth, change was possible. He refreshed the sounds of nature, the whispering of trees, the chirping of birds, and in that moment, he knew he wouldn't forget the struggle or the lessons learned. He carried with him a renewed spirit, Ready to embrace life beyond feared, he took a deep, cleansing breath. He let a smile break the weight of grief that had settled in for so long. The road ahead shimmered with promise. Emma, I promise I will honor your memory, he whispered, allowing the warmth of resolution to cradle him. With every step forward, he felt the darkness yield to the light, ready to face every challenge with newfound strength. The journey was just beginning, but for the first time, it felt like he was finally living and not just surviving. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive story. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Let your voice be heard. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let's spread the light together.